Hi, welcome to my video. First of all, I'm going to introduce myself. I am Anthony. I am a student of an English course, and I'm going to talk about 5 words that doesn't exist in English but in Spanish do, and what will be their meaning on that language. Okay, let's get started with the first one. It will be entrecejo. In Spanish, entrecejo, it's a word that in English doesn't exist. And in Spanish, we use entrecejo to talk about the space between our eyebrows. Here, this is entrecejo in Spanish, but in English, that word doesn't exist. We have one word in English that it could be close to entrecejo, to that word, to the space between our eyebrows. That word is frown, which means in Spanish, which means fruncir el ceño. It is, it's not a very close word to talk about entrecejo, but it's the it's the only word that talk about that space between our eyebrows. So it's a very interesting word because don't have a an equal in English. So the second one is a very interesting word. Is trasnochar. Trasnochar. We use trasnochar in Spanish to talk about a person that for his own decision stays up late in night, and that's the word in English that will be equal to trasnochar in Spanish. Stay up late. Okay, it's a stay up late. It's not the same as trasnochar, but it's even in Spanish we don't use that word a lot of times or frequently, but we use it when we stay up late at night. So that two words will be so similar but not the same, and that's the point of this video. Okay, the third word will be a very special word because in Spanish we use it a lot. We use it a lot for a lot of kind of situation in our life in Spanish. Is te quiero. Okay, it's a very used word because we use te quiero to talk about family with our family when we are talking with our family friends, with every kind with animals so te quiero doesn't exist in English because it's a word that express a feeling that you want to be with that person, that you really appreciate that person, that animal in your life. But it's the two words talk about love to a person, to an animal, but talk about love, a different kind of love, because in English you can use I love you, but it's not the same as te quiero, because te quiero it's under I love you. I love you in Spanish it's te amo. It's a very it's more love. Te quiero it's that level of love and te amo it's that level of love. So te quiero it's here, and I love you it's here. It's a different level of love to a person, to an animal. And in English you can use I love you to every situation, to every single situation you appreciate a person or animal. You say I love you. I love you, mom. I love you, cat. I love you, dog. I love you, friend. But we in Spanish we don't use that word frequently. We don't use te amo to every kind of situations because we don't have the same kind of love with every single person. And to that kind of love, to to that kind of love we use te quiero, but to that kind of love we use te amo in Spanish. So it's a very interesting word. Okay, the next one is puente. Okay, puente, but not as a building, not as a construction in English. We use puente, but to talk about when we have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to take a rest of work, of studying, of anything. You know, when we have 3 days of when we have 3 days instead of two to take a rest about the work, about the school. You know, when we have that kind of times, that kind of days, we use that word. We use in Spanish puente, but in English that word doesn't exist. Instead of that, we in English we can use a long weekend, un fin de semana largo. In Spanish, it have the same function because both words express more time to take a rest, you know, but don't have if you put in in Google Translator puente, you're not gonna take it. Maybe it you're gonna have the translation of a building, of a construction, you know, but not that, but not the word but not the word you want exactly, because we use puente to talk about that kind of times that you have 3 days instead of two, 4 days instead of two. It can happen when you have a lot of time to take a rest, you know. And the last one, it's lampiño. Lampiño. It's a word in Spanish that we use with persons, or especially animals. We in Spanish we don't use lampiño to persons frequently. We use more in animals, you know, because we use lampiño to talk about persons or animals that doesn't have hair, like an Egyptian cat, that doesn't have any hair on his body. We use lampiño. He's a lampiño cat. We use he's a gato lampiño. You know, lampiño. It's a word that doesn't exist in English, but it has a a word that will be hairless, sin cabello. It will be their translation in Spanish. Hairless, lampiño. It both words are used to talk about the same, a person or an animal with any kind of hair on his body. So lampiño doesn't exist in English, but in Spanish it exists, and we use it to talk about persons or animals that doesn't have any kind of hair on his body. So in conclusion, we have a lot of words. It's I think in my opinion, learning English, it's more easy. It's easier than learn Spanish, but it has his English language has his own problems to Spanish to people in that talk Spanish and want to learn to talk in English. But to me, in my opinion, it's more difficult learn to talk Spanish when you born in the USA because in Spanish we have a lot of words. We have a lot of a lot of times to talk. We have a lot of times. Our structure to talk it's not the same. It's easier, in my opinion. And it's interesting find some words. It's funny search words that doesn't exist in both language, words in English that doesn't exist in Spanish, or both, or words in Spanish that doesn't exist in English. It's very funny, and it's very interesting, because both languages find his own way to talk about the same thing in every in every kind of situation, in every kind of times, in every kind of, to talk about everything. There, every single language find the way to talk about the same situation, and it's very interesting for me. That is very interesting, yes, and it's very funny. Search that words, because you can be, you can you can take, it's not, it's not formal, it's not so formal, you know, because there are, we can say a person who doesn't have any hair, but we use lampiño, you know. It's funny, and I think it's, and I think that so that's all for my video today. I hope you you enjoy you enjoy you enjoy it, because I really, I really love to learn English. I really love both languages, are beautiful. And that's all. Thank you for watching, and see you later. Bye.